Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. Earnings season, love it, love it, love it. So much opportunity, so many names flying around. This is what I live for every couple of months. So you're gonna have to excuse me if I'm giddy over here. This is my favorite time of the quarter. So today's video is going to be a trade recap breakdown, what I call the quick hitter update on UNH, which was an earnings play this morning. I really love these I call them quick hitter videos, um, but I really love them because they give me an opportunity to kind of walk through the trades more in depth than what is in the nightly letter, right? So I can elaborate on the rationale behind the trade, and I can go over to like the target and the exits, and just like talk to it a little bit more, a little bit more in depth, like I said before. Just because like the letters are kind of limited in how much we can talk about there. So um, I mentioned in Friday's earnings on the radar video that UNH was one coming into this week that was on our radar, and I mean, all sorts of different names reporting this week, and all sorts of different setups. Each one obviously slightly unique. I mean, there's some certain similarities in a few, but I mean, for the most part, a lot of different stocks with a lot of different recent price action, offering a lot of different setups. Um, UNH probably, if not the strongest stock report this week, easily one of the top three. I mean, even considering, I mean, like this recent dip here. Let's zoom in a little bit closer, but even considering like this late move ahead of earnings, I mean, this has been one of like the better performing stocks, just in general. I mean, it's just really been an incredible run, and you know, even more amazing. I mean, the further back you go, just the more impressive it becomes, right? I mean, like look at this, and uh, really, the performance has been great technically, but I mean, obviously, some of that has to be to do with fundamentals as well, and really, like the company has just been on an incredible run with just solid numbers, solid guidance, which has really like kind of fueled this like nonstop grind higher. And I guess really, uh, this kind of falls into the trending stock trade category. So, when a stock is in this really great trend, what happens is that expectations get very one-sided, right? So because UNH has done so well and the numbers have been so consistently good, expectations are just high, right? I mean, everybody expects UNH to beat because UNH has beat for the last 3 or 4 years in a row, and the stock is, even though even though I mean it had just dropped, I mean it was close enough to its 52-week high, whereas most of the market had pulled back much more substantially. Um, and basically, that means that for the most part, earnings are less of an event for UNH because expectations are so one-sided typically. That's why we tend to avoid it. I mean, we have traded it in the past, but um, I'd say 3 out of 4 times it's an avoid, just because a stock that's going into its high or going into its 52-week high that everybody expects to beat, just this doesn't tend to get rewarded. So usually an avoid. Uh, but I mean, there are certain instances where it becomes worth it, and this recent drop here was one of those times. So coming into this week, uh, just kind of like screening through like the setups, noticed like a really interesting similarity to what UNH did actually this quarter last year. So you can see that right ahead of October earnings, UNH had a really sharp slide to its 100A, right? Uh, and here, I mean, the speed of it was a little bit different, but really like the technical setup was very very similar. The stock, you can see, topped out. I mean, it struggled to get through 200. Like hit it, couldn't get through it. Rolled over to its 100-day right ahead of earnings, and then what happened? I mean, they delivered again like they always do, and the stock popped and put in like a new high, right? So coming into this quarter, we're looking and we say, oh wow, this is a very similar setup. I mean, stalled at 270, couldn't get through, late dip right into the 100-day, and kind of following along the playbook from last year, looking for a good number and then a quick rebound to retest the high, and our expectations were more modest, right? So last year it broke through that high and extended further. This time we're just looking for a retest at the 272, and it's really just because the overall market is still under pressure. I mean, it's up today, it was up Friday, but generally speaking, it's well off its highs, and things are still a little rocky. So it's kind of tough to be expecting a major breakout into an all-time high when the market is still kind of treading water in lower ranges. So more modest expectations, just looking for a retest of the previous high around like 272. So I mean, what happens, right? Fast forward this morning, UNH, another great quarter, and the stock opens well, kind of trading around 270, chopping around, and then in the morning it starts to extend up through 270, through 271. And it doesn't have the power behind it. Kind of gets up into the 271.25, 271.50 area, and it's not really. It doesn't seem like the participation is great. So in that area is where we decided to cut the trade loose. And so this trade was a call spread, and the reason is because we weren't looking for a huge breakout move higher, just a more modest like pop and retest to 272. We figured. Call spread where you can take advantage of like the more expensive out of the money 275 to offset something closer to the money, the 270. It wasn't like a super aggressive bet, and basically it was capped above 275. So if it blew past 275, obviously the trade would have been capped at that point. So the call spread was closed out above 271 when with more or less the majority of the trade having played out the way it we had planned it, right? That's where we were looking for a retest 272, got above 271. That's good enough in our book. So that was that was the rationale, the target, the way it played out, the exit, right? Easy enough. But now, because UNH is one of the first names to report, I kind of tend to put more emphasis on the action. And this was a good setup that worked quickly, and that's really what you want to see in earnings season. Top patterns that trigger and reward the risk. And UNH, one of the first ones of this, banks were last week, they kind of got things started, but in terms of setups, this was one of like a better performing name that was near 52-week high, which over the last 2 to 3 weeks, it's actually been a really tough pattern to get paid on. And if you think about it, I mean, some of like the names that went into their earnings close to the 52-week high just haven't done well. I mean, like Nike comes to mind. Walgreens, didn't really get rewarded right away. So it's good to see that traders are willing to like step in and have a decent risk appetite on stocks that are at near the 52-week highs, because the trend over the last 2 to 3 weeks had been kind of disappointing. I mean, like these patterns would not get paid up around here. So maybe this UNH is the first positive sign that trend's breaking, and that's really, I feel like something you can take away from this. I mean, tonight's going to be another important night because you have Netflix, and that's going to be another very big test, I feel like, for this market. Although that setup is a little bit different, obviously. Netflix coming off a miss, and it's well off its 52-week high, but that Netflix is going to have a major impact. It's going to have a major impact on tech and on FANG, and a lot of people, myself included, are looking for a bounce back quarter in Netflix, right? It's first miss after like a really incredible streak of just blowout numbers. You tend to look for a rebound, in like the quarter. You know, you want to see like a really nice bounce back print, meaning that, you know, nice beat and guide, or you know, beat and good subscriber numbers, because that's what moves Netflix. Um, so what you want to watch is with Netflix is if they do beat, right, you want to see whether how large of a move. So you want to kind of gauge the magnitude of the move, and that's gonna kind of like tip the hat, or tip the hand. Better way to describe it, to say whether, you know, this bounce in tech is just beginning. Like, so say Netflix has like a nice beat but a really muted response. Then you say that, you know, maybe risk appetite is still not there in tech and Fang. But if Netflix has a big, you know, Netflix has a beat and then a monster move higher, then like that's a pretty good sign, because then that's saying that, you know, traders are still willing to reward good names, or good numbers on good names and good setups, right? So that's how I read these early earnings reports at the beginning of each quarter. I kind of put a lot of emphasis on them because they help me maybe like design certain trades, or maybe avoid other trades. So yeah, I'm super excited. Earnings season's going here. Lots to look forward to. Expect plenty more earnings trades coming down the way in, you know, the next couple weeks. So I hope you guys have a great night. Should be a busy after hours with a bunch of names moving, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow. All right.